Mina de kai mamka, da chai famina ulenga. Mima konda de kai gengestonu, mita konda de kai bonsweki. Bota I woke dim ta duhen de kai ta tembe, tambe tembe. Akabi pasili yom logo. Wabika stonu de ala malo stonu de ala no alam nango basi, alam nango sindo. No, hem fendi de kai wong de mo hansi kami au gengestonu, istono ali yo akabi pasi ala. Ke wong de son di bisi kumasada boko edi so ufa utalibi asamaka kende kai bota sembedina asamaka liyo atakabata fustaili bifi. Plus ufenta kita kande abisabunu tutakita kuma ede takima ote wa bosroiti. Fude bibusataki ku before asamaka liyo sanfa utapaki se u bepaalde son die before de bota te wa beslissing takita de uduma sondau.
The feelings voiced by Mamke echo a painful episode in the history of the Saramaccan people. In 1964, the Surinamese government completed the construction of the Brokopondo Reservoir and Power Station. Some 1,560 square kilometres of pristine tropical forest were flooded, causing loss of livelihoods and severing of cultural ties of the Saramaccan people with parts of their traditional lands. The parents and grandparents of people like Mamke were forced to resettle on safer ground, along the rising shores of the reservoir or further uphill along the Upper Suriname River. This transmigration was a traumatic experience for the Saramaccans. Its wounds are still felt today.
Te luku de flois konde de ama bunu bieti. Kuma kau bide. Wat kau kwa aqui, no kwa moto sembe caminhar. Dus no de udai, bij 10 meter. Je moest niet go door daar, ja sa aba. No kau bide no biabi, boven 1000 meter. O sanyago. So no te lu kwente kabake no itadia caminhar no itade, kuma wasot faz panta.
Today, more and more external stakeholders, such as mining and logging companies, are seeking to exploit the economic potential of the Upper Suriname River basin. All too often, they fail to understand how the future of the Saramaccans is bound up with the preservation of these forests.
Henda kuma pasai de, no mim dambe boto. Henda mea fa no do go fa 1000 pau. Wakuru pau no mdapa, umbe wan boto. Ma disembe kono atapu de pau ton kup tachago talai container tachago. No henda anfa wan aqui, afa wan timiter. Sansi aqui tu alfa sandi de fanodo, ko sandi na de fanodo. No henda matu podnita.
In a new effort to give the Saramaccans a voice of their own, several institutions in 2014 proposed a project centering on a unique empowerment method called participatory 3D modelling, in which the local community creates a unique three-dimensional model of the area in which it lives.
CTA supports the adoption of participatory 3D modeling as a means to enable ordinary people, marginalized people, in expressing their knowledge. We try to give them a voice in policy-making processes.
Sama kali yo kai tafu, sama kali yo kai tafu, sama kali yo kai tafu, sama kali yo kai tafu.
Communities who have their maps are in a better position to explain to outsiders how they use the area.
The ultimate goal of this project is to preserve livelihoods. It's because there are a lot of contrasting interests in this area. So on one hand, we have the livelihoods of the local people that live here, the Saramaccan people, and on the other hand, there are a lot of economic potential of the area. There is potential for mining, there is potential for hydropower, for timber. There are different development interests that are present in the area. So the idea with this project is to produce relevant information that can be used in inclusive decision-making, land use decision-making in Suriname.
Many locals were not immediately enthralled by the idea of a P3DM project in their community. They had already been involved in various map-making processes in the past.
Ifosule simbiye sondi udiagesi kaita di dembe usama kakonde I usama kalio I maketa kaita di dembe no hembi haksim seita kita we de bianwa kaita ka wa pampia kaita bimbeika no fande dia bilefa no rufu bimbe te wa kaita.
Ok, me pita com uma projeto aqui. Mas a vida não está aqui. A fez não só um projeto que eu na go baka. En was af handen bij bij de dus maar o hoop dat deze amos gomo amos de white is on dawo a de busconde dawo henda uma project o se kai mato son dawo fo sasi o de baka mi mo sasi dawo no so de se ken buta ai se obuno.
Despite initial reservations, the Saramaccans agreed to give the project a chance. Soon, the community's young people were busy with the first phase, the creation of a blank model of the regions selected for the project. The enthusiasm of the youngsters proved contagious.
Não via qual buno. Tá de yonkwa, de se dia ambe o map, de se si pa de no henda teoria lo akede andemo, no de sap persista okay. So it's on na de bisika.
A map like that has certainly an effect on bridging knowledge gaps between the generations and transfer of knowledge between the elderly and the youth. In many cases, these kinds of maps are used by schools to teach local geography, to teach local history, and these people who have been displaced when the dam was established will have certainly a lot of stories to tell to the youth about their previous whereabouts when they were occupying areas which were later on flooded.
After the completion of the blank model came the crucial stage of populating the map with colours and symbols, telling the inside story of Saramaccan traditions and land use.
Ani de kabau dui pisina ande hende sembe de pepe konde tabikitako. De gan sembe futaki ukonde entako. Amda dembi sa sundu kamia no de entako. Hende de ko hende ko bikitabuta teka bijvoorbeeld de kiki de. Of de takai son wa kiki na se pandasi kamia de. Bo takita de gan sembe de ko hende ko buta e kaita. De ilais du bimbe takita de son na de hende ke si ai kaita.
Mas isso de sair bonito, a só está tipo muito responsa, só está de boca aqui goku só. E não a só é aqui bonito.
O da insta response de aí build.
Yeah.
A key moment in each P3DM project is the official presentation of the completed 3D model to a select group of invitees from the outside world. Often, this presentation is the first time locals get to do the knowledge sharing while their visitors do the listening.
The map is not the main output. The main output of this process is empowering people.
By now, Mamke's reservations about the project have all but disappeared.
Kuma fa kapte un yao bitkonda. Na kapte un yao bikone ma human sembe bikonda takita umeni son di de bimbe de kai ta ofosu de mimbe to. Umeni son de abita kwa kai ta liba. No ti dem sitakita sembe breiti de sembe de wo kwa kai ta liba de breiti o de piki ganlan ti takita hi de son de kesi ai kai ta de buta ai kai ta no.
One of the many vital characteristics of the new model is that all of the communities in the area actually appear on the map. On other maps, this is often not the case. This is information that has shaped the Saramaccans' history, but may also serve to shape their future.
Fosum bita haksim sewe kam savita kita mi opa bia gon ay mer. No hem tasita kita on fa ta kumutu ay sana liyo nande fande dia ta kumutu nande ukoti gon a helemaal te ay so mera la. No aimbe kaita waka kim ta yu meni sembe o men sembe ta leg mi pepe uitvouw dia aimbe fan liba takita como fa e quando um auto quando dai caminha no bepaalde sonso ja sta doai se caminha nande dus fijn die abi guai mera la no ala bijvoorbeeld jogo koti gonfi hem vindt takita di kai wou de mo belangrijk so nim le aimbe kai tabaka.
Petrucci sees the model as a new medium through which the Saramaccan people can document their history, strengthen their identity, and shape their future.
Taki aba paksei umbe kaita no ade last dia ke abideta di kudi feti di uta feti ta u ke leti adi piskamia ka uta libi. Bote wa je wa voorbeeld wa kiki. No isita kiki ko adi ai kaita kade kondede no uta bebe kiki wata. No galanti mos da sembe kosensi ai piskamia ka uta libi. No die osien duidelijk ta ikonde aki iki de hema fen he kole gode. No ida kosensi ai konde baka. No dozer wima no teichum i bron olie of i kas i diesel kaya i matu no chuba kai no kolego ai kiki no ta kolego ai kiki na kiki kolego kai konde de no de sembe obebe i diesel wata no abunu galanti sa fostin no de osita na ko no de matata kwaso no akaba ma itata kwaso di abi in houta dendo.
Mamke believes the Saramaccan people can also take action themselves to bring about change and increase the chance of preserving their unique cultural heritage. There too, the 3D model will be a useful tool.
Wou de son dem bioke si u Saramaccalio ene kan bioke u fu bi hoi Saramaccalio fa de hansi aki fu amusu nasien kabasoso fu amusu koti de pau fu tu takita mato ademo no e kaita son fa asa hepi fu pakisei u fa fu duku de sunjufu fu amus tatu me elio ta sunju elio mo.
For Mamke and many other members of the Saramaccan community in the Upper Suriname River basin, having gone through the P3DM process has rekindled old dreams and strengthened their cultural identity and sense of belonging.
Ifas fam ta fi isunya dim ta sunya no ta sunya ta baka wanyati no henda ukude baka mi de mi so well de oto sembe mi usademo white ta utafiu se ta udawansana sembe adi pasifa ikai tambe yaki no utasawe no udewa tanga sembe ya aikamitskap usana.
In phase 2 we are looking more in detail how the local people are using the different places which they had indicated in phase 1, and we are also projecting the roads and look what the effect of the roads will be on the different ecosystem surfaces.
To make sure the information stored on the model is available to everyone who may need it, it was first digitized. Printouts of the digitized map were distributed to local authorities, schools and community members, as well as to the university, NGOs, government agencies and other stakeholders. With the rollout completed, the time has now come for the Saramaccan people to put the model to use. Considering the likely impacts of potential road constructions, one current goal is to enable stakeholders to make informed decisions on how to manage the area's pristine natural resources and the valuable ecosystem services they provide, both to the local communities and the population at large.
In this exercise, we are now in a transition to show the things that are important for them, to see how future road developments are going to affect these livelihood sources. So what we want to do through this exercise is a vulnerability assessment, a participatory vulnerability assessment in which the community themselves determine how vulnerable are the sources of the ecosystem services on which they depend on, vis-a-vis the presence of roads.
Samaccalio kaitafu, Samaccalio kaitafu, Saramaccan kaitafu.
Ja, dus bijvoorbeeld evenements man, wan me kwa passie bijvoorbeeld ja bakasi. Dus daar, usitaka kata iso tak ja, ino maggoan kan de vrouw mal pade dape. Op dape, want aan malpa, na malpa we make nia oli. Je kan je tata, bord visi, bord meti, alle soort van je mekam je borang malpa oli. En dan malpa oli dat suiti altijd. Akasori ook toe, tak apis pa busi dape. Kan de biggest man be do kruturu dape. Dus daar apis dat no mag go serfi. Dus so yap desani le toerisme. If once one make one tourist is the old. Dus akata serf kasori tak no ino mag meka kata asam dape.
New development projects in changing tropical forest landscapes can pose risks not only for tree species, but for entire ecosystems and lifestyles, both for locals and for the wider Surinamese community. But new roads also open up new opportunities for accessing resources and markets. A new ecotourism resort may generate jobs and sales of local products. In the Yao Yao area, opinions about projected developments and their potential impacts, positive or negative, are mixed. The 3D model and the derived digital data represent a useful reference for the community in developing a shared and grounded vision.
We are, apart from the ecosystem services that were already identified with the maquette, we are overlaying this transparency to identify other sources. For example, the sources of fibers for the touching material for the roofs. So using different color markers, they are going to identify the sources in the present, but also the sources in the future. And in this way, we are trying to have an exercise of thinking about the future and preparing for change.
So mau desonde tada sambe boko di de pakse ta pasi ogwa bepaalde kamia de kai. Kuma fa de aki pasi waka pasa a hafu konde baka of gwa bepaalde dipiso e matuso. Sambe ota kumuto a foto se hia fa ota si de ta kumuto nangwa auto konde ta hondi. No di de kai mau deson de mta ye sambe ta kita de ta pakse fe a tada de boko di ta kita sambe oko hondi de mbe tikabatu. Ifas fai kai ta kisa happy that one taki mau de sonde uta duende kai uta luku de sonde wabi fano bra sama kaki umfa au da umfa situatu de pasi kwa kamia wan situatu be abila sa that one taki de kai de sembe hakisi de pakse uma pasi de eens taki ta de mun be so uma pasi e de tu piki ai en baka dati de go luku te fa de kaba de kosita nono na bumbu sonde dunande. No, eu vou com a caita que liba godosa do onderzoek de sonde aqui baka pisia o chako da o te pasiko. Te sembe kota ki pasi son ku auto lazy mo no ende kai wabi de pakse na ande ka fu chago sakada de before piki ai of before piki no. No ai fasi na ande ata happy mo bunu fu sate wa mo bumbu beslesing te kalater amu sucha lasidau.
For us, has been very satisfactory the way the P3DM has awakened a sense of empowerment. So, for example, with the timber. They depend a lot on the timber for income generation and for making their boats. And now they feel that for the road that is being constructed in the back, the timber sources for the future are being are at risk. Yesterday, for example, they were discussing that. They were saying it's through this mapping process that we are able to say, hey, we exist.
Samakali okaitafu, samakali okaitafu, samakali okaitafu, samakali okaitafu, samakali okaitafu, samakali okaitafu, samakali okaitafu.